Hello again, teachers. This is John over in Educational Technology. And in one of our previous Jamboard tutorials, we were talking about using text like this, and just some sample text like for an ELA lesson. And I wanted to dive a tiny bit deeper into that and use that as an opportunity to talk about backgrounds. So this is kind of where we left off the last time. So I'm going to go ahead and use clear frame at the top, and I'm going to click on set background and just kind of reset. Google recently just introduced the ability to upload your own background. So before we jump into that, let's just kind of really quick explore what else there is by default. So when you click on Get Set Background, these are your defaults. You usually start with just a blank white slate, which is great, just depending upon what your uses are. But you also have dots. You also have blue lines. So if you're talking about a lot of writing or even typing in there, this one's excellent. You do have graph paper, which I know all you math geeks out there are just going to love for either charting or just showing your work in different math problems as well. You can kind of invert that to like a gray grid, and then you can do some colors like blue and black. But the new thing they set is this plus, which basically means you can add your own image. So if I click on that, and then I'm just going to click on Browse to upload because I have this on my desktop right now. And then I have the sample text. And when I downloaded this, just from Google Images for you guys, it's just a plain old JPEG. Most image type files should work just fine. So if you download something that says PNG, JPEG, TIF, anything like that, most likely you should not have a problem. So when I click on Open, that's going to put that image into my background. Now, right off the bat, I just want to let you guys know some pluses and minuses about this. The positive thing is, if you share this with students, they can't move it. Because it's a background and it's not an image like inside on your Jamboard, they can't click and drag. So anywhere I click, I can't move it. It's literally like a static background that they can't touch unless they go up to background. Some of the bad news about that is that now you got to start thinking about aspect ratios, image sizes, stuff like that. So, right now this image is actually being stretched a little bit to fit the entire background. It's still completely legible for my purposes. It's totally fine, but do notice that it's a tiny bit grainy. It's a little blurry, so just know if you're trying to get a small image and stretch it out to something like this, it could very quickly get really blurry and not look good. So just an FYI. Just keep those things in mind. For example, if I chose an image that was vertical, it's going to stretch it out, and it's probably not going to look very good. So just an FYI. Now, the alternative is to just set the image in. So when I use this example, one of the reasons I chose it is because it's got this extra information over here that I don't want to see. So if I'm in here, I could just go into my images. I could create a white box that has a fill, and I could just drag it over that so that you can't see it. Now technically it's still there, so if you're sharing this with students, they could move it to see what else is there, but it's an easy way just to visually kind of cover up something you don't want to see. Now, here's the alternative to setting it as a background. Let's just kind of reset here, so I'm going to clear my background by going back to blank. The alternative to doing it as a background is to just put in an image. And that would be this guy over here on the left in your toolbar. I go to add image. Notice this looks exactly the same as before. Click on browse, find it where I have it, and then put it into my document. Now, the plus side is it has its natural size and aspect ratio. If I want to move it, so for example, remember the other one stretched it left to right, top to bottom? Let's say I don't want that. Let's say I want a big title at the top and I want this down near the bottom. I could easily do that like this. I could drag it to be exactly the size I want and then set it. If I don't want to see this, I could do exactly what I did before and click on the box, make sure I've got a white border and a white fill, and then drag a box over it. So technically I could do exactly the same thing. I do have more flexibility here too, where besides sizing it the way I want, besides moving it to where I want, you can also rotate it using this guy right here. You can rotate it if for whatever reason you needed to. Like, I'll give you an example. So let's say I didn't want to do that, but I just wanted to move this guy all the way to the right. I could actually set it up like that, Maybe you're going to get real fancy with it. You could kind of rotate it a little bit so that it looks fancy, whatever else you're adding onto it. So again, you've got a lot more flexibility when you add this as an image as opposed to a background, but everybody's got different purposes, and the vast majority of the time, if you don't need it to be smaller, I would personally recommend you make it as a background, just because it's one less thing that you or students will accidentally move and kind of mess up on your Jamboard. So again, if you need the flexibility, please add it as an image. If you don't need the flexibility and literally just want it as the background, that's where it's going to be set as your background. So anyhow, just some little tips for everybody about backgrounds and images. Hopes that helps. And until next time, enjoy, and remember, you cannot be an analog teacher in a digital world. See you next time.